Hey, Patrick Manley here, former Chicago Bears long snapper. You were listening to Brags in the Stands.
What a beautiful sight, my man. We're back. Let's go. The Bears, they started this new tradition last year where they celebrate their wins the correct way. Bottle and Sylvie, ESPN 1000, don't miss it.
I know what you mean.
It's like their own Philly.
Okay. Okay, I think what it is.
We shouldn't be showing this. Am I crazy?
Sign that is. What if I told you 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of drought?
Do you see this team growing into the team that you were in 2005?
Yes. Great practice, everybody.
You are ridiculous.
But they decided to ignore it. The reason why they ignore it is this. They want to keep this circus going for as long as they can, fight guys that are smaller than him, fight guys that are less experienced than him, and get the pay-per-view numbers that they got. Like I said, they've done a wonderful job of pulling the wool over people's eyes and getting rich at the same time.
What would happen if you stepped into a ring with Jake Paul?
It would be over. Look, first of all, what Jake Paul, this is his formula. He wants to fight guys that are smaller than him. He's naturally about 210 pounds. They say he's 6'1", but he's really not. You look at him at all of his press conference, he's wearing Timberlands, which put 2 inches on your height. So he's really about 6, maybe 5'11". So they want to fight guys like that. They don't want to fight guys with experience in the ring. If I were Jake Paul, I wouldn't want to face somebody like me.
And there it is from the Spiegel and Parkins show, the Parkins and Spiegel show, I should say, from 670 The Score. Kendall Gill calling out Jake Paul, the guy that made all the, papers and the headlines on Saturday, knocking out his guy. Johnny, I know you've been on vacation and doing a few things. Did you have a chance to watch the game or watch the match?
I didn't see it live. I was in an area that didn't have it at the time, but I did see the results, on Twitter and some of the other feeds. And
did you place any shekels on it, or is that out of your element?
I don't place any money on a circus like that. Obviously, that's not even, in my opinion, it's a real fight, obviously, but it's not professional athletes. So I would not put any money on that. I don't bet on the fights too much anyway. But I have been making a little money off our boy Vooch since he came to the Bulls, though. So that's pretty good. I've been taking those over 3-pointers made and cashing in on that. So that's been good. I'll stick with what I know, but not much of a fight anyway.
Well, there you go. You're good at what you know, and you're definitely our gambling aficionado, expert, and duck race connoisseur and everything else. But you certainly know what you're doing when it comes to the gambling sense of things. So yeah, as I said, that's from the Parkins and Spiegel show, and we're excited to have Danny Parkins on here in just a few moments, and we'll get to all the stuff we've been up to here lately. But without further ado, as I was just saying, from the Parkins and Spiegel show of 670 The Score, joining us now for the first time on Brags in the Stands is Danny Parkins. Welcome. How are you doing today? Appreciate you taking up a little bit of your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the invite. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, a little bit choppy service-wise, but we can hear you just fine, see you good. Maybe if you get settled in, but you're good to roll. The Cubs are leading, and the Sox are about to close it out. It's 8-3, so maybe we'll get a good day of baseball here in Chicago. And, but let's get right into it. We were just talking about and showed a little clip from your interview with Kendall Gill calling out Jake Paul. Do you think that, were you impressed with that, impressed with his victory over the weekend, Jake Paul? That being said, he certainly, is bulked up. I didn't really know anything about him prior to all this boxing stuff, but, he's, I don't know anything about boxing. I'm certainly no boxing aficionado, but this guy, hey, he put his money where his mouth is and he won the fight. What did you think of it?
I was not very impressed.
No?
I'm no aficionado either, but I don't understand, man. I don't understand the appeal of watching fake fighting. The UFC is amazing, and a great boxing match is amazing. Why would I want to watch a couple of amateurs tank a fight and then pay them $60 million, like $65 a pop pay-per-view? I don't get the appeal. I don't know if I've ever felt older, frankly, after Sports Story came and made a ton of buzz and went viral and people seem to enjoy themselves. And I'm I don't understand the appeal of any of this. And I'm the young sports media guy. I felt very washed up after that sporting event.
It is.
Perfectly honest with you.
It is pretty wild, the world we're living in now. A YouTube star that is known for doing all this goofy stuff. Now he's in the boxing or MMA boxing ring, and putting the gloves up. So you just never know what's going to be next, and boxing is trying to get the appeal. You saw that when they had Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor square off, and not necessarily a true boxing match. They're trying to do everything they can to drum up excitement. So I'm assuming you think Kendall Gill would just knock him out cold, huh?
I mean, yeah, but he's 52 years old. I assume so, because he's a real boxer. But as much as I love Kendall, and I would love to see it, and it'd be great because he called him out on the show and all that stuff. Who cares? If I didn't know Kendall Gill, why would you care? Why would you care that a guy who has a popular show on YouTube is fighting a guy who played basketball for the Charlotte Hornets 28 years ago? I don't understand why that would get 2.5 million people to pay $65. Again, I would pay it because I personally know Kendall Gill. But to me, it's Jake
the national
Paul's
appeal.
Family. Yeah, Jake Paul's family, Jake Paul's girlfriend, Jake Paul's neighbor, Kendall Gill's old teammates, and me. There should be 22 people who want to see that fight. I don't understand why there's 2.2 million. I don't get it.
I think it's probably coming down to now people just can't stand this guy so much that they're just literally tuning in and hoping that somebody will just knock him out and knock him out, bad. And so he's not waking up for a couple of minutes. I think people are starting to really dislike him. And I think that's the appeal, to be honest. I mean, I don't see it, but I think that's what people.
Oh, I think you're 100% right. And let me be very clear. Jake Paul is clearly a genius. This guy is not stupid. He is not going to fight anybody who could beat him. Why would you give up this jig? It's the greatest hustle in the history of the world. Fight smaller people who aren't fighters on your dime on a network that you have some stake in, and then just make tens of millions of dollars when they go down after one punch. I would schedule fights with people like me for the rest of eternity. Honestly, if it's just about him, right? If it was me fighting and Kendall Gill fighting or Ben Askren fighting or Bragg, whoever, if it literally doesn't matter and 2 million people are going to pay $65 a pop to see Jake Paul fight anyone, then he should never fight someone who matters. Right?
Well, I gotta keep it up at the gym before I take on Jake Paul. I know that much. I'm just getting back on the right track, but let's get right into it, Danny, because we had a little communication over the off season. When we were all begging for Deshaun Watson, and obviously with his legal troubles, we've kind of, as Bears fans, all moved on from that. But I did want to start with your career itself before we talked about the draft or the Cubs quickly. And, as you can see, my co-host here, Johnny B, is a good friend of mine. He used to be my neighbor. We still live in the same area, and he's a diehard Chiefs fan. And you came from Kansas City to Chicago. So I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about the differences that you've kind of seen between the two cities, both very passionate sports cities, and kind of, how Kansas City impacted you in coming up here into Chicago.
Yeah, well, thank you. And again, I love your guys' show. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope my connection's good. I tried to find a good spot. You guys are cracking a little bit on your end, so I don't mean to disrespect the show if you think.
No, hey, we appreciate. Yeah. No, you're fine, and we can hear you. It's a little choppy, but it's certainly watchable, and we got plenty of people watching live, and we appreciate your time, man. And it's no big deal, and we appreciate you winging it for us, my man.
All right, yeah, no problem. But look, Kansas City's amazing, man. I'm born and raised Chicago in the Chicago suburbs, and I'm a fan of these teams. And my goal was always to get back to Chicago because, what's better than making a good living talking about sports with your friends for 4 hours a day? It's making a good living talking about sports that you care about,
right,
for 4 hours a day where your friends and family get to hear you. Like, I get people from grade school and high school or whatever that I've like not in contact with that'll DM me or send me a message on Facebook or an email or whatever and be like, man, it's so cool to hear. Like, I remember when you did it back in high school, and I was voted, this is corny, but I was voted like most likely to be on Sports Center in my graduating class of 1,000 people, and I
got most likely to end up in an insane asylum for our senior night. That peels the picture back for me.
Yeah, so both of our senior classes got it right, but like it's cool to do it in my hometown and like be the youngest host at the Score and between either two stations and like try to represent younger people in some way and like a little bit of not a changing of that would be overstating it, but like this has been a career goal for a long time. Like, I had a dream job and I achieved it, and I can honestly say that like for as like single-minded as I was about getting back to Chicago, when I got to the city, I thought I signed a 2-year deal in Kansas City to do the Danny Parkins show from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in April of 2011. And I would have told you, yeah, it's my guy Carrington. We did afternoons together for a long time. I'll get to him in just a second. But I would have told you in April of 2011 that I would have been gone from Kansas City by April of 2013. I would have put that at like 90%. I'd be like, I'm going to kill it here, but I'm going to then move to Cleveland or Detroit or Minneapolis or Miami or like some city bigger than Kansas City and smaller than Chicago, because I was just obsessed with getting to the bigger spot. And once things started to go pretty well in Kansas City for me, I was always working with the bosses of ESPN 1000 and the Score. And I was like, in theory, in the future, hypothetically, if a job ever came up and you thought I was good enough, right? All those qualifiers. Would you hire someone from Kansas City? Would it need to be a bigger market? And they were both like, no, it's plenty big. There's NFL, there's Major League Baseball, it's plenty big. And once I got that word, I stopped looking. Like I stopped looking for. So I loved Kansas City. I fell in love with my wife in Kansas City. We got married in Kansas City. The sports fans are amazingly passionate. People are nice. The cost of living is cheap. It's great food. It's centrally located. It's close to Chicago. It's easy flight to Vegas. Like, I have my mom's side of the family's from there. Like, I can go on and on and on and on. And then also, I was in Kansas City at an amazing time. I was doing afternoon drive on the home of the Royals in 2014 and 2015. Nice. Like for back-to-back World Series trips, you know? So
that's good timing.
Yeah, really, really, really good timing. And it was a fun city to do like what we do. And because like, you know, I get recognized in Kansas City more than I do in Chicago. I haven't been here quite as long as I've been there, but like, it's just, there are fewer people, like, you know, if I'm like an F-list celebrity in Chicago, right? Like somewhat of a public figure who occasionally is like, oh, are you that dude from the Score? In Kansas City, like 75% of the time I went out, someone would say something. Like, you know what I mean? Just because it's a smaller place. Like people know the Chiefs, the Royals, the weathermen, and the radio hosts. Like, you know what I mean? Like honestly, and so it was fun to like have that type of social currency in a mid-sized city that was crazy passionate about sports when you're single in your 20s with no real responsibility. Like I had a lot of fun in Kansas City.
All right, well,
a lot of nice nights in the Plaza area there for sure.
Oh, dude, Grand Falloon, the nachos, little Capitol Grill.
I gotta go Capitol Grill, man.
See, and let me tell you about this guy, Danny. you know all about Kansas City passion for sports. This man lives in Northwest Indiana and goes to every single home game and quite a few road games, and went to both Super Bowls the last 2 years as the most diehard Kansas City Chiefs fan I'll ever meet in my life. And, people have known him now because he does these fun duck races and giveaways and things, and they're all Kansas City Chief oriented. But he literally drives to every single home game during the year from Indiana, and that just speaks to the passion of Kansas City, and I'm sure, that's just a smaller representation of, the giant city that is Chicago and what we live and breathe sports around here, but I have to put you on the spot, Danny. Which city has the best food? Kansas City's known for barbecue, and Chicago's known for a lot of different types, and obviously pizza's at the top of the list for a lot of people. What city would you say has the best food? Because you were just naming a few restaurants that sound like they were near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Kansas City, but Kansas City in this conversation is like Allen Iverson. Like, Allen Iverson is an all-time great, and he punches above his weight class, and people talk about him like pound for pound, like he's like maybe the most talented basketball player ever, but no one says he's the GOAT. They're like, if AI was 6'6" and 240, maybe he'd have the skills to be the GOAT. So that's what Kansas City is. Kansas City punches above its weight class, but it's not Chicago, it's not New York, it's not San Francisco, it's not Vegas, it's not, you know what I mean? There are restaurant cities than Kansas City, and I think that most Kansas Cityans would agree with that. But
you're not going to find nicer people, like you said, for sure. So you give a little, you take a little.
Yeah, no, and the difference with it, I would say, is that like in Chicago, there's, I mean, probably hundreds, but like if you said like what's the best Italian spot in Chicago, you would get from foodies 25 different answers.
Yeah.
If you said what's the best Italian spot in Kansas City, like 70% are saying Garozzo's, and Garozzo's is great, but like it stands out in Kansas City because it's just smaller. And so, there's clearly the best KC Italian spot. There's clearly the best Mexican food spot. Whereas in Chicago, there's just like so much variety, and so that it doesn't compare. Chicago is a much better food city, but it's not fair. Like, you should be comparing Kansas City's food scene to like Milwaukee and Indianapolis is food scene. It punches above its weight class in that regard, but it's not Chicago.
Well, let's get right into it, and we appreciate you kind of giving us a backstory. I always like to give my listeners an idea of who they're hearing from, and their backstory. And, you're a transplant, coming from Kansas City for 6 years, working there. And we have the transplant head coach, with the Chicago Bears in the NFL draft coming up next year or next week. And, we all thought this was going to be Kansas City 2.0 here, and it hasn't quite worked out that way. How nervous are you going into this draft, as I am, for the potential of Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace to trade up to the 4th pick in the draft and potentially take the 4th quarterback taken? Because, Ryan Pace obviously doesn't have a good track record of picking quarterbacks here, but Matt Nagy, to be fair to him, aside from bringing Nick Foles in last year, hasn't gotten to pick one in the draft. So how confident are you if they do trade up? Do you think they'll trade up, or are you worried about that?
I do not think they will trade up, and I would be floored if they traded up to 4. I don't think that's happening. Like, I that's 100 to 1. I think that if Justin Fields falls, right? If the experts are wrong, that it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 at quarterback, and we know it's going to be 1, 2, 3. But if somehow, some way, the quarterback that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy have graded as, say, the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback in the draft is all of a sudden the 5th quarterback in the draft, and he starts to fall to 12, 14, 15, then I do think it's absolutely in play that the Bears trade up to move up, 5 to 10 spots, let's say. But they're trading 2 future first-round picks and a player and another draft pick to move to 4 to get the fourth quarterback in this draft. I don't think Ryan Pace will get George McCaskey's approval to do that type of trade. I think that they leave and get a better quarterback production this year, but I think they're staying pat at 20 and tackle or corner and rolling out Andy Dalton this year. That's what I think's happening.
If it were me, I'd have them stand pat at 22, but I got to say I am nervous, and nervous is the word because, you see Matt Nagy here watching Justin Fields at his pro day, and we already saw the package they offered for Russell Wilson, and I understand he's an MVP and a proven talent and worth, in my opinion, every bit of what they offered him. But to me, they are desperate to improve that quarterback room. Andy Dalton doesn't move the needle for anybody, and it really only shows how much of a mistake the signing of Nick Foles was to bring a guy like Andy Dalton in. So I believe if they want to be up there, no one's going to outbid them to get there. So I'm nervous because, of course, the Bears are picking 20, and if they stay there, they might not even get the 7th best quarterback off the board the way some mock drafts are going. And it's like insanity, and to trade up to 4 to get the 4th quarterback off the board also seems insane. But maybe there's some weird irony and it'll work out this time for the Bears the way it didn't in 2017. But I am certainly going to be on pins and needles waiting to see what these guys do because they do seem very desperate. And as I mentioned, the package they offered for Russell Wilson, I'm one of those guys that's a hopeless romantic. I will always think of the most unlikely scenario. I mean, to me, is there any chance on draft day that they come to them? Because, you can only offer 3 first-round picks to the Seahawks right now, but the day of the draft, you can offer 4. Do you think they up that offer to see if they'll bite and make this picture a reality, or is that just la-la land for Greg?
Listen, I hope it's reality. I think that they will call, but I don't think it's going to happen. The reports out of Seattle are that they're patching up the relationship, and that Russ and Seattle are now getting along more now. I think that the best case scenario is next year. Like, if you have the dream of Russell alive, I do too. One of the bits that I'm doing on the show is, man, the Bears is going to be a tough watch. They're going to be a tough watch this year, but I have our solution. It's not just Bears Monday. It's Bears and Seahawks Monday. And Seahawks losses should be treated Bears wins, because the more dysfunctional it is in Seattle this year, maybe the more likely that Russell Wilson would want out and Pete Carroll would be okay parting ways when the dead cap number gets cut by like $15 million after next year as opposed to this year. So
sure.
The idea of like rooting for dysfunction in Seattle over the course of this year to make that breakup happen again, I think is something that's definitely viable. But I think they'll call. I think that it is, again, close to 101. Like, it's such a long shot. I think it's very, very, very overwhelmingly likely Russell Wilson is the week 1 quarterback for Seattle this year.
And I agree ultimately, but man, are they, to me, a little crazy for passing it up the package they were already offered, because I don't believe they're ever going to get something that big when you consider the age of Russell as we go forward. Maybe next year they get something similar, but to me, this is your chance, and I understand that they would probably alienate their entire fan base because Russell Wilson's a god out there. So I get, even more so than the money, that the image that it would perceive to just get rid of him right now, even if it was for a bevy of picks and players, probably wouldn't be enough for the Seattle fans to stay loyal. So I agree. I'm looking at him for next year as well. That's why I'm hoping the Bears stay at 20 and keep their draft equity, and then can attack this position again in the offseason next year if we don't get lucky as at a rookie at 20, maybe a Mac Jones falls to 20. But then again, we're hoping it's like luck if he ends up being a good quarterback, even if they trade up for Justin Fields and everyone's like, oh, guaranteed he's going to be great. It ain't a guarantee. I'm done hyping. I got to see it because it's just, we've seen how it goes in the city with Cutler and Mitch Trubisky, both seeming like they might work out and then the bottom falls out. So, we're all certainly on pins and needles when it comes to that. Do you you're probably going to save your predictions for next week or anything like that, but do you have a few players that you got your eye on at 20 that you're kind of hoping are there?
Oh, I don't need to say my predictions for next week. I think that, predicting the draft is really tough when the Bears had the 3rd pick in the draft. And then we did a little bit better when they had the 8th pick in the draft, and like Roquan Smith was kind of easy to prognosticate. 20's tough. Tevin Jenkins is the most frequently guy who got to them at right tackle. I think it is more likely they go offense than defense. I could see them reaching for a receiver in anticipation of Allen Robinson not being here forever. And getting ready for that replacement. I could see them reaching for the 4th receiver at 20, or maybe even trying to trade down a little bit to take a receiver at the back end of the 1st round and pick up an extra pick to down from 20 to 24, 26, somewhere in that range.
Sure.
But also the one defensive position that I could see them taking is corner. I'd be very surprised if they went with a pass rusher just based on the profile of guys in the draft, even though you can always use more pass rush. But I am a believer that in this new NFL, actually a lockdown corner is more valuable than a number 1 pass rusher because teams are snapping and throwing so quickly, and getting it out to neutralize the pass rush. That would have been a ridiculous statement 10 years ago and even 5 years ago. But I do think that if I'd take Jalen Ramsey over, Von Miller, as an example. And so losing Kyle Fuller, I do think that if they like the corner from Vatek or they like Newsome from Northwestern, then that's a totally reasonable pick because I think it's the 2nd most premium position in the NFL right now behind quarterback.
Do you consider Greg Newsome a lockdown corner? He's a local kid. Obviously, we've been able to watch Northwestern up close. Do you consider him a lockdown corner?
I would be lying to you if I said to you that I don't consider myself a scout, and sure. I'm not grinding tape on these guys. There are people who do that in the media and that's their angle. My thing with the draft is I wish that everybody would acknowledge that luck and player development are much bigger factors than everyone I scouted this guy and it worked. It's no. If Mitch Trubisky would have ended up on the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes would have ended up on the Bears, Pat Mahomes would still be better than Mitch. I'm not saying that. But Pat Mahomes would not have a $500 million contract, and Mitch Trubisky would have a 2nd contract. If he was coached by Andy Reid, if he was throwing to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce with Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz protecting him, situation and player development and all that, it matters so much. And so my thing with the draft is whoever they pick Thursday night, I'll know everything about them by Friday's show to react to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm glad that guys like Dane Brewer and Matt Miller and people like that exist who are going to give you the scouting profile on 400 dudes. Not interested.
I'm the same way as you as a fan. When we got Jalen Johnson, it was who? And then he becomes almost a fan favorite, early in the year with his aggressive play. A lot of us as fans need to see it in a Bears uniform. Even if you've watched a guy on the college level, it's so hard to say how they're going to translate to the NFL.
Yeah, and most people don't watch college football. If you watch Northwestern Ohio State, you weren't let me ISO in on the corner to see if they'll be, that's not how most of it. So you really do have to go back and watch film and tape of these guys to have a reasonable answer to that question. And that's just, I just not something that I spend my time doing.
Sure. So before we move to baseball, Johnny, I know you're the Chiefs guy, and he is from Kansas City. So if you had anything in particular
No.
before
I'm from Chicago.
I know, but you
yeah,
I understand.
I'm
You
from
worked in
Chicago too. I will say this: became a Chiefs fan in about 1987, and basically what happened is I was a huge NFL fan. I loved NFL. I really didn't have a team. I mean, I went to one Bears game. Here and there, we didn't have a whole lot of cash to go and do that, but I loved NFL. I loved Dan Marino and some of the other players. And the bottom line is my mom had a friend that lived out in Kansas City. I got a chance to go to Kansas City. First time I've ever on a plane, and basically came to the town, fell in love with the town, the people. I got shown around. I got to meet a couple of players by accident, and that was it. I went into the stadium, the vibe. They were not very good back then, obviously. And that was it for me. That was my team from that day and that trip on. Got the red starter coat, man. I was fresh. The red satiny starter coat on that trip. And that was it. I was done. That was my team. And the rest is history. Drafted Derek Thomas. Had some good years there with the defense. Then obviously a lot of heartache like our good friend Greg here with the quarterback position. And now I have no idea what we're going to do in the draft. But I don't even care. I feel good. I lost the Super Bowl this in February. I've never been more motivated in my life to win.
Well, I'm certainly hoping we get a guy like Rondale Moore. To me, we're always looking for everyone is the next Tyreek Hill, but that dude's got some burners and he's got some hops, and he's certainly somebody
I would muscle twitch. That's the difference. Speed and muscle twitch.
Well, I certainly would like that. Well, Johnny B is also a huge White Sox fan. So transitioning over to baseball quickly, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, Danny. I know you got a show tomorrow, and I appreciate you carving out a little segment for us here tonight. But, are you surprised by the slow starts from both teams? I mean, it looks like the Sox won. The Cubs are efforting a win here tonight, trying to get to battling to 500. Are you surprised that both teams are kind of stuck in the mud trying to get over 500 and get a little momentum going?
I mean, not really, honestly. I think the Cubs are going to be terrible. I think it's going to be a really, really, really rough season for the Cubs because I think they don't have nearly enough pitching depth, and we know the problems of their offense. And then I think they're going to be sellers at the deadline. And then I think you're going to be playing non-competitive games where you're not necessarily optimizing your lineup. Like I think this team has 70 to 75 wins all over them, frankly. So the Cubs thing is not that surprising. I hope I'm wrong. I'm a huge Cubs fan, and I obviously hope I'm wrong. But the Cubs thing, I was down. I bet they're under at 77.5. I do not think it's going to be a very good season on the north side. The Sox, to me, it's been fluky. Like, it's just been unlucky. I think they show all the signs of being a great team. But you have the Engel injury, you have the Eloy injury, you have the Tim Anderson injury, now you have the Lance Lynn injury. You've got Garrett Crochet with multiple weird incidents and errors and throwing people, and you've got Jose Abreu not hitting. You've got Liam Hendricks giving up home runs. You've had some positive outliers too, right? Like Carlos Rodon's obviously been a positive outlier. Yermin Mercedes is obviously a positive outlier. So it's not like everything's broken. Yeah, it's not like everything's broken against the White Sox, but I think they're now sixth in run differential, maybe fifth after today's game. I haven't seen the updated one after today, but they're fine. The White Sox are fine. They're going to be very good. They're going to score a ton of runs. That bullpen is going to figure it out. And they've got legitimate starting pitching as long as the Lynn injury isn't serious. But even with that, you've got Kopech, who you could ramp up towards the end of the year, who looks like the best pitcher in the damn city. Rodon's throwing no hitters, So I think the White Sox are going to be fine and playing in meaningful baseball in September and October. And I do not think you can say that about the Cubs.
They're certainly primed to have a very good year. But I wonder about their World Series aspirations. They put it out there in their opening video, hype video to start the year that this is about the World Series. And, I only go off of, teams and seasons I've watched. And obviously the 2015 Cubs transitioning to the 2016 season, they won that World Series because of what they learned in the 2015 run, which was 162 games. And I feel like with these guys, it's going to hurt them a little that they didn't get to experience 162 and that grind. Do you think that that's going to be something that hinders them, and having to understand that learning curve this year? Is that sort of thing going to push this World Series dream a year later, or can they get it done this year?
Well, I mean, so who hasn't played 162 games?
I'm saying the White Sox. I'm saying their team last year, it was only 60, so they weren't able to really.
But it's not. I mean, Tim Anderson won a batting title in a 162 game season. Liam Hendricks beat them in the playoffs last year. Dallas Keuchel knows what it takes. Luis Robert hasn't gone through that. I suppose that would be one. Obviously, Yermin Mercedes is going to be asked to work more than he ever has. Right? Michael Kopech had less than 20 big league innings coming into this year, and what are you going to stretch him out to when he hadn't pitched in the big league since 2018? And how are you going to balance that? They're not a lock. There's no such thing as a lock in baseball, right? Absolutely. Sure. It could be a year like what you're talking about. It could be the reason. It could be injuries. It could be bad luck. It could be the division is too good. It's possible that the White Sox only win 84, 85, 86 games. You know what I mean? I think that is in play just because of if simulated the season 10 times. I think that's where they come out, maybe one or two. But you asked if I'm surprised. I just think the start's been a little unlucky, a little fluky, and
some teams defensive issues. Early on.
And I mean,
weird things like that. Like you head down a little bit with the pitcher, but second baseman's had some issues. Madrigal, and they've lost some games like that. I don't even get too worked up, Greg, to be honest with you, until we can get a suntan outside. You know what I mean? And
that's what I'm hoping for the Cubbies, because they're all hitting like $111. So
if you're a good team and you don't have championship aspirations a year early, a year late, then what are you even doing out there? In my opinion, if you've got a good team, you better be trying to play for the championship. That's the way I look at it.
Sure. And the 2016 Cubs, they needed all sorts of luck to finish the job. So it takes a lot of different elements to win the big dance. There's no question about that. We saw that firsthand. My final baseball question for you before we cut you loose, is, if you had to pick between these three, which one are you keeping?
Which one am I keeping, or which one do I think that they're keeping?
Both.
No, you. I want to know which one he's
You can start with you and then what they are going to do.
I think Chris Bryant is the best of the three. I think Chris Bryant is been a little unlucky. He's been a little unlucky with injury, and I think he got into his own head. But I think that Chris Bryant is a stud. And I think that Rizzo, age, position he plays, back, those factors will make him the cheapest of the three. And then there's also the sentimentality and the leadership stuff and how far he goes back with Jed that I think he is the most likely. I think Rizzo is going to resign. I think what's going to happen is I think that Rizzo is asking for a huge deal. The Cubs don't think the market will be there. And they told him, hit the marketplace, but then come back to us and we will match any offer that you get. Sure. Is what I think is happening there. So I think that Rizzo, and that's a dangerous game of chicken if you want to re-sign him. Maybe someone will offer him 5 for $75, and the Cubs will be like, "Cool, we'll give you 5 for $75," and he'll be like, "No, I'm going to the other place because through you didn't appreciate me." That's possible, but I think it's overwhelmingly likely that the Cubs re-sign Anthony Rizzo, and maybe Baez will be so bad this year and so undisciplined at the plate
that sounds awful.
There's not going to be much of a market for him, and he comes back into their price range, and they can sign him as I don't even know, like a 4-year, $60 million, something that would have been unbelievable, ridiculous, But I think he's hurting himself. I think he's costing himself a ton of money with how he's playing. And so in order of likelihood for them to resign, I'd say Rizzo 1, Baez 2, Bryant 3. in order of who I personally, if I could wave a magic wand, it would be Bryant 1, Rizzo 2, Baez 3, but I'm willing to flip 2 and 3 depending on like what you tell me the number is for Javi Baez. I just think there's a huge range for Javi, depending on how this season goes.
I'm step for step with you on that. To me, the guy is Bryant that you need to make sure you mentioned all of it. His age is younger than Rizzo's, and his injury to me speaks more to his inconsistencies than, just, not focus or, work ethic or anything like that. Not to say these other guys aren't working hard, but to me, Chris Bryant is the guy you should be trying to keep, and I hope they can keep at least one of them, if not two, but I'm the hopeless romantic. It's like I go in between wanting to blow it up and keeping a couple guys, but it's a tough spot to be in for the Cubs, and I hope they can stay competitive this year. They're winning right now 3-1 here in the bottom of the 6th, and so hopefully they can stay competitive because it's a lot better when both teams are good. That's for sure. So again, we appreciate all your time. Real quick, it is the 6-year anniversary of the passing of Doug Buffone, a legend of 670 The Score, and obviously the Chicago Bears. Obviously there's so many people in this city that have stories about Doug Buffone. I got to work with John Buffone over at the Barroom Network, for a few years, and Doug Buffone had such an impact on my life too. Just he was him and Ed O'Branovich, to go and listen to them on the post game and hear their passion for the Chicago Bears. Do you have a story or, a memory you have of Doug Buffone? I know, he's just such a staple at 670 The Score.
Yeah. Well, so, the stories that I can tell you are other people's stories. And so I don't feel like 100% right about it because I didn't get to meet him. Doug passed away before I got there. I got
before
to
you got
in
here.
January of 2017. So I've only been at the Score 4+ years, and he, as you mentioned, this is the 6-year anniversary of his passing. But what I can tell you is that I've talked to Ed O'Branovich about him. I've talked to Dan McNeil about him. I've talked to Terry Boers about him. I've talked to Wolves about him. I've talked to Dan Bernstein, like Mitch Rosen. I've talked to his wife, who worked in sales at the Score and at Entercom for a while, and CBS Radio before that. Chris Tannehill, who produced those shows, Matt Abaticola, Nick Shepkowski, like so many people who knew Doug and worked with Doug and were very close with him. And he, everyone was your little buddy. Like he would talk to everybody. He would make everybody feel important. He would make fun of himself. He, believed that he saw UFOs. Like he was a character. He was a personality, and he loved the Bears, but he was honest. It was not like Ron Santo's love of the Cubs, and that, the Cubs could do no wrong to Ron Santo. But he called the Bears a loser franchise that will always be losers in like his second to last appearance ever on the Score. He pulled no punches, man. And so I was like, when I got down the Score, like I was thinking about like, oh man, it's the original Chicago sports station. You think of like everything that it's meant to the city, but like one of the first things you think about is Doug. And so I don't want to paraphrase other people's stories who can tell it firsthand, but what I would just say is that there's Terry Boers' name is in our hallways because Terry was just there every single day, and he was in many ways the same way. Like they named kind of the hallway after Terry, but other than Terry, there's no one whose like presence is missed and talked about in more like reverential terms than Doug Buffone. And people will go back about Mike North's importance to the station, or the old Mike Ditka show, and how maybe the Score would not have survived if Ditka didn't agree to come on once a week and come in studio and do his thing there. They used to have news cameras outside the station every day filming through the glass just to get, because like Mike Ditka spoke to the Score before he speak to the rest of the media. Like there are a lot of people who matter in the history of that station. It's come up on 30 years. January, but you couldn't go too deep before you get Doug Buffon.
You're 100% right. His impact on the city will certainly last forever. As I said, the post-game shows are that of legend, when you hear those two getting fired up, and certainly missed. And, appreciate you giving some words on his impact. Again, Danny, you stayed way over than I was anticipating. It always turns that way because I don't know how to shut up, but I appreciate you, coming on, carving out this time on a work night. And, it looks like the Cubs should hopefully close it. I don't want to jinx it in the Sox one. So have some winning baseball to talk about tomorrow on 670 The Score. Again, Danny, we really appreciate your time coming on here tonight.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, appreciate you, Braggs. Maybe you'll listen to the show one day. I know.
Hey,
I know you're loyal over there. You're a celebrity.
I
get
listen.
it.
I listen to the show sometimes. Just saying. Great.
Hey,
I listen.
I may not be active in the Twitch chat, but I listen to both sides of the dial. I have always listened to both, but yes, I have been very active with the ESPN 1000 gang. They've always been very good to me, and Sylvie and Waddle have been good buddies of mine for a long time. But I would be lying if I said I didn't turn down the dial and tune in for you guys. I mean, Matt Spiegel to me is one of the best in the business, and I think you two are a great pairing, and I'm very happy to see you guys together and Matt having, great success. He did some innings with the Cubs. He's one of the best guys to talk baseball. I mean, it's just like, truly like butter melting in your
chops, man.
I mean, it is the original. The original Chicago sports radio, Greg.
Yes, like I said, no doubt everybody knows the ESPN 1000 prowess and everything, all the days I've had on there, but all respect and love to what you guys are doing over at 670 Score. And I certainly tune in, but I'll try to make myself more apparent here going forward in the future, Danny. And I appreciate all your hard work and the energy you bring to the city. We certainly enjoy what you bring here. And thanks again for coming on tonight.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you for the invite. Happy to do it again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. That was Danny Parkins from 670 The Score. And really appreciate his time. Again, you can listen to him every day, Monday through Friday, with Matt Spiegel on the Parkins and Spiegel show. So make sure you tune into that. And that, along with many other great quality programming, starting up at 6 a.m. every morning when I'm driving to work. I'm always tuned into 670 as I'm driving in, because I start my morning commute about 6:15 in the morning. So Molly and Ha are on the dial. And he busted my chops a little because, obviously in the ESPN, everybody knows me as an ESPN guy.
I mean, but it would really be Chicago if he wasn't busting your chops a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Hey, that's all right. You got to hold the feet to the fire. But I certainly have always, appreciate and love. I mean, I grew up on 670 just as much as ESPN, but, obviously the harassing with the boys on from 2 to 6 with Waddle and Sylvie has become that of legend here at Braggs in the Stand. So, but everybody's been real good. We have guys like Chris Emma and other guys from 670 come on that we're friendly with. So we appreciate everybody in the sports media realm. They help us, have fun here on what we do here on these podcasts, and obviously how we get all our information and things like that to make us more informed, Chicago sports fans.
Yeah, definitely,
so
definitely.
Danny brought the heat. His internet was a little choppy. He moves around like I do, with the phone, but we appreciate him working hard through that. And for those of you that have been tuning in, we appreciate you, watching through. Sometimes the internet sometimes goes out, things happen. That's what happens on live TV. We try to just roll with the punches here on Braggs in the Stand. So before we get to our next segment, of course, I got to give a little shout out to my guy, Brian Potter, our official sponsor on Fan Bags, of course. And he does really great work. And we're getting to that time of year where you're going to be busting out the beanbag boards. And this guy has the best in the business. When you watch beanbag tournaments on ESPN, you'll see his apparel and his, a lot of his stuff, from the boards to the bags. It's professional line circuit. So with that being said, that Danny Parkins interview was brought to you by Fan Bags Cornhole. Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company's logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off. Step up your game with Fanbags Cornhole. Bam! See, we've been off and we still nailed it. You know, we've been taking a little break here, but we're back and better than ever. You know, we've been doing all sorts of craziness, which we'll get into. But before we do, you know, as we transition to our next segment, I always like to play this little
Ducks line up. Ducks line up.
Because as we said, Johnny B is the gambling aficionado, but he's a man of many hats, you know, Sox fan, diehard Chiefs fan, you know, born and bred in Chicago sports, but also makes his way down to Kansas City. And he brings a lot of entertainment with his duck races, his infamous duck races that are Kansas City Chief themed, and he does a lot of different themes with them. So I wanted to share one of his most recent races with the viewers to get a little idea for those of you that are new to our show, what Johnny B's all about. So here was one of his latest duck races, which anybody can enter in, and you can win some pretty cool giveaways. You know, a lot of it's Chiefs apparel, but you know, like I said, this is a man that is the gift that keeps on giving. And I see so many cool prizes that you give out. To me, anybody that's an NFL fan would appreciate some of these.
It's surprising. Like I have people that follow and watch the races from all over, you know, all over the world, actually. You know, we've had a winner in England. We've had two winners in England, actually, the UK, and we've had a winner in Canada, but from all over the world. And I got Mets fans, I got Braves fans following, I got some Pittsburgh fans following, and it's too many to count. I could list the names, but it's just entertainment. And, you know, who wouldn't want a signed Tyreek Hill jersey? Who wouldn't want a flying Mahomes, you know, art print, limited edition? I mean, who wouldn't want this stuff? I don't care if you're a fan.
There's some Bears fans that might cringe at the Mahomes because it might make them want to jump off a cliff here and there. But, you know, the trajectory he's heading on, that's Hall of Fame memorabilia, you know, that certainly will be worth a penny one day. And you give this stuff out just for retweets. So, you know, this is pretty gracious of you. So I wanted to share some of your work along because I want to give you the Twitter account handle so you can start sharing some of the stuff on our Twitter too. There's no reason why I shouldn't be sharing every duck race you do, but you do so many, Johnny, because you're the man that never stops. You got the unstoppable motor. You're always doing something. Yes,
200 races in a year.
Over 200, and you're approaching the 1-year anniversary for these duck races, correct?
Well, we actually hit the 1-year anniversary. It was April 1st. It was no joke. That's the way it happened when I did the first one, when the pandemic hit us all. And then I was like, we got to do something. We're dying. There's nothing to watch. So I saw Big Cat's horse race. I thought it was pretty cool, you know, a magnetic horse race. But I said, I can do something better. We had just come off the Super Bowl championship in Miami. God, it seems like yesterday. And I said, I got to do something, you know. So I didn't know what I was doing. I got some ducks together. I bought them at Target, not Walmart. The Target ones are better. I got a Sharpie. I put all our championships numbers on it. And you know what? I just started commentating like you would for a horse race or a football game or a baseball game, and throw a little pop culture in there. And before I knew it, I gave away some of my own stuff that I had accumulated. And then before I knew it, I had partners from a memorabilia company and some artists and all these Chiefs art prints and barbecue from Kansas City. And I can't even tell you how many prizes we've given away, but that 1-year anniversary race was a big one. I think we gave away like 5 or 6 prizes just for the anniversary, signed stuff. And it was good. And we're not stopping. We're going strong. And we're looking forward to it.
It's amazing how a little idea that's a good idea can take off like a bottle rocket. And that's certainly what this has done, because it's genuine. Anybody that knows you knows how passionate and fun and charismatic and full of energy you are. And that's why it plays so well with what you do. As you mentioned, you got the cool calls, you know, that are very authentic and feel like it's like a official horse race, but they're rubber ducks.
It's real, man. I feel like it's real. Like I'm vested in these ducks. I know it sounds weird. We've never lost a duck.
Well, we both moved out last year from our townhomes where we used to be neighbors in the mean streets of Aspen Trails. We all kind of had our mass exodus with Adam leaving as well. We all left Eric in the dust over there. I don't know what he's doing over there, but it was a lot of fun watching the evolution of these duck races from my backyard on my back porch, watching you and Abby, your lovely wife, kind of doing the filming and the hard work. You guys are fishing ducks out in the heavy terrain when it was flooding. So it's been a fun journey. So I want to share the duck race, the most recent duck race, so you guys that are watching right now can get an idea of what Johnny B's all about. And, as I pulled up his name bug a few times, you can follow him and get involved in these duck races. If you retweet him, you'll have a chance to win some prizes too. So here's the latest duck race where a winner was already announced, but give you an idea of what Johnny B is all about. Here it is.
Don't forget to follow me, TSC Kansas City, and Corey the Artist Chief, and retweet any duck race post, including this fabulous race, for your chance to win prizes. Let's take a look at the ducks. All the usual suspects and lucky numbers. We got the offense rolling out today, and I got CEH in my hand. The birthday boy ducks line up. Ducks line up. Ducks line up. And it's a fabulous day for duck racing. Bumping and grinding out of the gate. Rubbing is racing, and the D-Train takes the lead. CEH, the birthday boy, takes the lead. And Big Red, and they're all over the place. It's Big Red. Now D-Train, as they come to the world-famous horseshoe at duck races. It's the D-Train, and here comes Mahomes. It's Mahomes and D-Train going to the short side. And here comes the Cheetah going around the outside of that duck's curve. It's Mahomes and the Cheetah. Who's it going to be? Mahomes, and now it's Butt Kicker. And it's Butt Kicker. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And Butt Kicker is the king of the jungle. All I do is win, win, win. No matter what. Got duck races on the mind. I can't get enough. Woo!
There it is, Johnny B, the man of many words. You were killing it there around Dead Ducks Curve. Comes down. Who's the butt kicker? Mahomes?
What do you mean, who's the butt kicker? That's our kicker, man. That's his.
Well, I thought it was down to Mahomes and Tyreek.
That's what it was, but I don't know what happened in that jungle part of the horseshoe. But Mahomes just vanished because he was in the lead, and I think he got stuck in the long grass, and butt kicker Harrison Butker passed him. But that's Butt Kicker's nickname in his Twitter handle. It's Butt.
Okay, I apologize. And I would know that had the Bears been smart enough to sign him as their kicker when he was readily available to the entire NFL. And Jake always said, how are you the Chicago Bears and not giving a guy with the last name Butker at least a tryout? That's just goes to show you.
Funny thing that kind of relates to the Bears now. So the reason that the Chiefs got Butt Kicker in the first place is we had Cairo Santos as our kicker, and he pulled a groin or something. So Gano was the kicker for Carolina, so he was like all pro at the time, and they had Butt Kicker that they drafted, but they had him on the practice squad because they didn't want to let him go. Cairo gets hurt. Santos gets hurt. We signed Butt Kicker, went to his first game. He hits the game-winning field goal against the Redskins on Monday Night Football, 2017, Mahomes' rookie year when he didn't play. And that was history. Now we just signed him to an extension. He's one of the best kickers, and especially long kickers in the game.
And ironically enough, Cairo Santos now on the Bears. We just re-upped him to a 4 or 5 year deal. And I liked his swagger. I liked the way he played the wind. It's, obviously the wind is very tricky on the lakefront, at Soldier Field. And I thought he kicked with confidence into that wind. And it takes a certain type. Some people get that alligator arm, but on your leg when it's kicking. We all know the infamous name that he shall not be that shall not be named,
like a corgi leg or something.
Yeah. And, this guy didn't kick like that. He didn't kick with fear. And I just felt like he really cut into the wind the way you need to, and so maybe it works out, but certainly a missed opportunity with Harrison Butker, who's been great for all these years for you guys now. So we'll see how it goes. But that was a very entertaining duck race. And that is what you are all about, Johnny B, is that and many other things, as we've said before many times here on Brags in the Stands. But wanted to give the viewers that are new to this show, because Johnny, when we had Danny Parkins on, I don't know what happened, but we were like almost up to 100 viewers. We get a lot of crap. Me and my nemesis on Twitter, Little Kev Big D, he was giving me crap the other day that people don't watch the show. But hey, something happened. I don't know if it was by accident, but some people started to tune in. Danny Parkins, such a popular guy here in Chicago. I guess that's what it was. It certainly wasn't little old us,
Well, maybe my tweet out there to some of the Kansas City people saw his name, and maybe they
Hey,
dropped in.
and I don't know if you noticed, but in the profile for our Twitter, I added you into it. We initially, you only got so many words in your profile, and it was just me and Jake because we weren't sure how it was all going to unfold. And I looked at it, when I was starting to readjust as we've taken this break, and I was like, it's a crime for your name not to be in there because you are a staple to this show. It's in there now. It wasn't, and I readjusted everything and reworded it because it used to say weekly shows on Fridays, but obviously now we kind of do when we can because, Johnny B and I are both, working men. He is a tennis instructor. I'm a bricklayer. So in the summertime is some of our busiest time of year. So it's not always going to be on Friday night. Sometimes it's going to be on an impromptu night like tonight, to try to line up the schedules as best we can. That's what we're going to do as we roll through the summer and try to work through it while and keeping the fans entertained. But you are a staple here at Brags in the Stands. And, for those that are watching that get confused when they see all the Chiefs regalia, he is a Chicago man too. And it, may not make sense to you, but if you continue to tune in, you'll understand the vibes of this show. And Johnny B is the man that brings the energy here.
And I'm going to say that, my heart is still broken right now that football is, not playing. I mean, I know we're talking about the draft and all this and these mock drafts. And to be honest with you, I'm about tired of all these mock drafts because it doesn't really matter what any of these people think. It matters what your team and your GM and your scouting staff and everybody that pulls the trigger on those things mean. You got to get those players. Obviously, they got to be coached up, like Danny said, and, get in the system, and it's got to be the right fit. So I'm definitely missing football, but I don't even get serious, like I said, into baseball until I can get a suntan in my face in the Chicagoland area. So maybe I'll change these flags up real soon.
Yeah, no pressure. You do you. I mean, I got all the different teams represented behind me in my wall of throw up sports, which is, I'm a man of excess. So I'm going to have a lot of different things. And that's why me and you are kindred spirits in that way. We like having all sorts of stuff up. So maybe you can start adding a little White Sox and then, it'll Blackhawks. I'm not too much of a hockey guy outside of the Mighty Ducks 1 through, number
Mighty
1,
Ducks.
D2. Yeah, back in the early 90s. The movies, they were great. Yeah. That was my only time as a diehard hockey guy, and I'd run out in the street, and we'd play roller hockey in the street with recycling bins, and everybody was playing hockey during those movies because, hey, man, those movies were great. They remade the show, and now I guess the Mighty Ducks of old are the bad guys in the new remade show. Right. I haven't had an opportunity to watch it yet. It might make me depressed and realize how old I am. But, yeah, man, the Mighty Ducks were my groove back then. I never really got into hockey, even when the Blackhawks started to take off, and everyone was jumping on the bandwagon, so to speak. And obviously there's some true blue diehard Blackhawks fans in the city of Chicago. I mean, hockey's been, a huge part of a lot of Chicago sports fans' lives, but not mine. And I couldn't fake it when they won it, and started their dynasty. I couldn't start pretending like I was some diehard, like I'd been waiting for this my whole life. And that's kind of how I am when it comes to sports. Like, if it's not something that's truly genuinely in my blood, it's hard for me to truly get amped up for it. So
a lot of people don't know about me is I was kind of a big hockey guy and raised on it. I had an uncle that was big into it, and he played some minor league hockey. And my cousin, who played all over the world, he played a lot in Canada and other places, Europe. He was one of the top ranked junior players in the United States back when hockey wasn't cool in the United States, when they were like, oh, he's from America. He's not, he's an American player. He's not Canadian or Russian or European. So I used to actually put on the goalie pads for him because I have really good hand-eye coordination. I'd put on broom ball shoes. Go look that up if you don't know what that is. So I didn't slip all over the place. And I would actually play goalie for my nephew or my cousin when he would practice. So I was around hockey. I would watch him play. I would play goalie for him so he could practice when we were kids. And I would go to those Blackhawks games in the upper level at the old Chicago Stadium, when like people are lighting the sparklers on fire and draping flags over and banners and smoking and peeing in the corner. And going to the bathroom. I can tell you stories all day. So, yeah, I was definitely a part of that lifestyle. And then obviously, the old Chicago Stadium was the best. And then obviously we were there, my family, for that ride when the Blackhawks, won those championships, and it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly watched the games when they got to the playoffs and the Stanley Cup, and they were very exciting. At one time they did actually face off versus the Ducks, and I was like kind of anti. I was rooting for the Ducks the whole time to irritate all my friends. Yeah. I had to do it. I stayed true to my roots, man. That's what I try to do.
Dude, it's a movie.
Hey, listen here. They made the team because of the movie. So they changed it, but they were called the Mighty Ducks for a long time because of the movie. That's how much of an impact that movie had. So
they had the same logo. I remember.
And they should have kept it. I mean, they're crazy to me that they changed it to like be cool. The cool thing would have been to stick with the original logo and colors. They're crazy to me to switch it. I mean, look, like I said, it's such a folklore, trilogy, one of the greatest trilogies of all time. And they've remade it into a show all these years later. So, and all the characters are still back. Emilio Estevez and the whole gang. Charlie Conway, Gordon Bombay. Come on now.
Still alive? Nice.
Not the Knuckle Puck, baby. I mean, now what sequel lived up to the hype like Mighty Ducks 2 with the Knuckle Puck in Iceland and all that stuff? I mean, the
Knuckle Puck was good.
Very few sequels live up to the hype, and that certainly was one of them. So, hey, we're having fun here. We've been taking some breaks here this summer or this spring while we get back into the work grind. And Johnny and I have had different, stuff going on at home to give us a little break from all this. And that's kind of what's nice about what we do here is, we try to do it when we can, but we don't try to overdo it by any means. I saw some pictures you were sharing on Twitter. It looked like you had a nice weekend of fishing. That's a beautiful view. I was joking with you that you should have done a duck race here in this little area that you took a beautiful picture of, but it looks like you were busy doing other things, catching big fish. I'm not much of a fisherman, but it looks like you had some good luck out there.
Well, some people call it luck, Greg. Some people call it skill. I've always been a good fisherman. It's something I enjoy. I don't do it a lot when I'm in my daily grind, but if I can go with my dad or some of my family, and this particular one with that big monster fish, I was actually invited to go out on the Michigan side of Lake Michigan on Easter Sunday morning.
Okay, that's around here.
We caught some monsters. I caught 2 fish. That one's about 20 pounds.
You almost look like you're in Florida with the, short sleeves and the water.
It's funny because I had just gotten back from Florida. I had kind of been all over the place lately. I did some business down in Florida. I was coaching in conjunction with a Hall of Fame coach that's worked with a lot of world-class players and legends like Serena and Venus and some others as well. Wow. So I was working with him in conjunction for about a week with some stuff that I was working on. And I got the opportunity to do that. And then I was obviously there with Abs, and then had some other personal family stuff going on. So we decided to take a couple days to go to Arkansas here with this picture here and that sunset picture. And, I was with my dad and some of my other family members, my nephew. And so that one on Lake Michigan was actually right when I came back from Florida. And that's when we had those couple days where it was like 75 degrees.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think April 5th was Easter this year. I don't know if you could ever in the history of Chicago take a picture out on the lake where it looks like the water looks so like ocean-like.
Yeah.
It is Lake Michigan, and being obviously you can't see it, a Mahomes 15 on the back of that cutoff cheap shirt, baby.
Well, and of course we get snow today here in the Northwest Indiana and a little bit in Chicago as well. Tickets, I'm sure, were real cheap to the Cubs game tonight because nobody wants to go out there. I've actually been lucky enough, you've seen some different shots here on the show, got to go and see the Cubs in their first homestand. Went last Friday when they could only muster up 2 hits. And then the next day they get 6 home runs on the day I'm not there. But, it's been nice to be able to return to the stands, return to Wrigley Field. It was my first time in like 565 days returning to Wrigley Field on the first homestand. And it was certainly an emotional moment for me as someone who loves going to games, not just loves. It's like what I live and breathe. It's what Johnny lives and breathes. And I want full houses, but I'll take what I can get right now. You know, I was lucky enough to go to one Bears game when they got their asses whooped against the Titans in November. So it certainly wasn't as fun of an experience as you want. But, you know, in this day and age, you're taking what you can get. And then we were lucky enough here at Braggs and Stands to be media credentialed to some of the Purdue basketball games. So got in for football, got in for basketball, but had been waiting my turn for Wrigley Field and Soldier Field, which are, you know, my homes away from home. And to be able to return to Wrigley Field was a beautiful thing for me. And, you know, they've got all the seats spread out and everything else. So it's, you know, it's a different atmosphere, but, you know, honestly, you know, I try to look at the bright side of things. And, you know, when you got a little one like I do, Addison Grace, who I named after the street and one of my favorite players growing up, that's how big of a Cubs fan I am. Yes, hopefully she doesn't kill me for that, but yeah, she got named Addison Grace, and there she is taking in a hot dog with my lovely wife Jenny at Wrigley Field. That was the first game back, and that face, and you know, with it not being a full house, you know, she has the opportunity to kind of run up and down the aisle and not mess, you know, she's not bothering anybody. And, you know, I guess in that sense, you know, it is a little bit of a benefit because then she can experience it where there's not as much risk. Right. And it was actually very nice. They won that night, that day. So that was nice. But, you know, the other day when I went on Friday, I got some free tickets, you know, a really nice guy who, you know, has been a huge supporter of mine, Zach Sullivan, who sent me a clock years ago when I was working for Bears Ballroom that was personalized with all my different slogans. He sent that as a gift, and then he, you know, is offering me free Cubs tickets
what is your number one slogan? Do I not know
Oh, man, there was a whole bunch of them, but, you know, my number one slogan from Bears Barroom is I used to always say, it's not all on Mitch. You know, that's what they'd say. And then everyone called me Greggy Sunshine over there because I'm always with the sunshine and positive rainbow takes. And so those were two of my monikers. So those are some of the slogans that you see on this clock that Zach was nice enough to make. And I'm going to hang it proudly in my new house that we bought. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, Zach got us the tickets, and I actually got to, you know, on the right, the two girls on the right, Naomi and Jen, are his friends and family. And then they had a fourth ticket. So I just put it on Twitter. Hey, if somebody wants to go, I got a free ticket. Yeah. Meet me at Wrigley Field. And this gentleman to the left of me, Zach Ward, he's from Milwaukee. And he dropped everything he was doing on a dime and drove straight out to Wrigley. And he's, you know, a young kid, 22 years old, but couldn't have been nicer. And a great sports fan. We were talking about all the different things that we were talking about with Danny today about who will we keep and why with the Cubs. And we were talking Bears. And it was a really nice time. We had a lot of fun over there. And, you know, we even got Jen and Naomi, you see here on the Jumbotron. We had some great shots. I had a video of them. This was some screenshots from the video where you see the Cubs media and then you see them on the Jumbotron there. And it was a cool moment, even though the Cubs could only muster up 2 hits in the cold. We were in the shade, so that's like being on the dark side of the moon when you're at Wrigley. If you're not in the sun, everybody's flocking towards the sun seats, but we tried to hold true to where we were in the shade, hoping it was going to bring us luck. And then unfortunately, Jack Peterson got the bases loaded in typical Cub fashion. They don't hit all day. And then they're down 3 and they load the bases with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. And everyone thinks Jack Peterson's going to jack jam a grand slam to win it all. And he strikes out and you're driving home safely. And it was, that was all she wrote for that day. But, you know, it's a long season and it looks like maybe the Cubs can pull out a win here tonight. And I'm actually going to the game on Thursday with our good buddy Trey Tunes, who's actually never been to Wrigley Field. And you can listen to the Trey Tunes show on, it'll be his first time going to Wrigley, and we have bleacher tickets. And, you know, you can listen to the Trey Tunes show weekdays from 12 to 2 live on Twitch. We actually, Trey and I did a show today on his Twitch channel, and it was a lot of fun. We were breaking down his trip to Miami that he just got back from. He went live for a minute at one point down there, Johnny, and a fight broke out in the middle of the street, and he like documented the whole thing. So we kind of broke down the fight a little bit and his bird's eye view of it all. And it was actually a pretty entertaining show. So make sure you check out Trey. And we're going to be at Wrigley on Thursday. So if you're there, come and find us. We'll be in the right center field bleachers. I'm sure we'll be hanging out outside of Wrigley before that. So, hit me up on Twitter or whatever, and we'll be happy to say hi to you, man. So I'm excited to return. I haven't been to the bleachers in like 600 days now. So, these are all firsts. It's like very exciting, hope springs eternal, and we're in the spring season, and a lot of hope and happiness and, all these good vibes we're spreading around, and to be able to return to the bleachers on Thursday will be another emotional moment for me. Cause as I said, like, this is what I live for, ladies and gentlemen. I know that's what Johnny does too. And sitting in the bleachers at Wrigley is one of those things that, I never thought I wouldn't be able to do. And last year, certainly I'll never forget. And I never want it to happen again because, I don't want to be cooped up. I want to get out with the masses and meet the people and greet the people and have fun watching sports. That's what it's all about, right, Johnny B?
No doubt about it. Obviously, I was lucky enough where Kansas City was one of a couple teams that had fans during the whole football season. Kansas City, I believe Jacksonville, Miami were the three teams that had fans from start to finish, and a bunch of other teams like the Colts, Tampa Bay, the teams in Texas, Cleveland, they started going in October with some limited fans. But I was lucky enough to see a lot of games last year for football, and I know that had to be killing you as a Bears fan when they wouldn't let anybody in at Soldier Field. It was definitely a lot different. This first time especially, it was very, very strange, because I'm used to, the Mahomes era and even the Alex Smith era before that when Andy Reid took over and the stadium's packed with almost 80,000 people. But, after that first time when it was a little strange, I was just very grateful to be in the stands. It definitely sucked not to be able to go to any baseball games, whether you're a Cubs fan or like Greg or a Sox fan like me. And I'm going to be heading to some games here pretty soon, hopefully, too, as the weather warms up a little bit. Like I said, I can start getting into baseball a lot more like May, Memorial Day. That's when I think it starts to get interesting to me.
Sure.
And not that I'm not watching the games now, because I am, and I'm betting them, and I bet the game today.
It takes a little bit to get going, especially in the city of Chicago with the cold weather. And that's why it probably wasn't a surprise to Danny Parkins that they're both off to 500 starts. That's kind of what you expect in Chicago because, a lot of these guys are used to warmer weather. I mean, Jack Peterson, he comes from LA. And he hit 9 homers in spring, led all of Major League Baseball in homers in spring. Well, he comes to Chicago, even though we had some pretty nice weather to start. Now, look, it's snowing and sleeting and raining. It's not the easiest conditions to get heated up in,
Well, I remember Canerco when he was on the Sox, obviously, all those years. He always seemed to start a little bit slow, especially those games in Chicago. Like, he might do all right if we were out in, Anaheim or something like that. But when we came back to Chicago and it was 42 degrees, 45 degrees with, 15, 20-mile-an-hour wind, he seemed to struggle a little bit until it heated up, and then he would really heat up. Obviously, a lot of teams are kind of in the same, thing where they're just not really getting position yet. You got the Yankees, who a lot of people think are supposed to be really, really good, and they're not playing very well at all. And there's a lot of teams kind of in that couple games over 500, couple games under 500 kind of bunched up right now. And that'll change. The cream usually rises to the top, they say.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think, I have some questions about how the Sox are going to get through the season grind because I believe, even though individually these guys have been through 162 games, I just believe it takes something as a team to learn things. And I just watched it with the 2015 Cubs, and that's the only thing I really have to go off of because we've never seen World Series championships. Yeah. They're few and far between here in Chicago, so that's all I really have to go off of. And, I just saw how much they learned and how they grew through that year and were ready for the 2016 season. Even when Kyle Schwarber went down right away, they didn't really miss a beat. But then when you consider all the luck they needed just to win it all, I mean, you look at Game 7, it takes a lot. So as Danny pointed out, and I certainly think the Sox have a chance, but I'm curious to see, how they get through the grind of the 162-game season, how they handle the ups and downs, and then also the expectations. When you say we're winning a World Series, this season's about World Series, you hire a manager that's 90 years old who has all the World Series.
He's not 90 years old, bro.
Whatever he is.
How old was your manager when you won?
I don't know, but he wasn't that old.
100 years old. Let me just stop you there. I'll tell you this. And that is the reason I think that they brought in Tony La Russa for one of the things that you're saying about your concerns about experience in a 162-game season.
Right.
So you're bringing a veteran manager that's been there, done that. Yeah, some people might say he's a little old or whatever, but who are we to judge? Who are we to say one of these other younger guys that does maybe not have managerial experience can get the job done either? So I don't have any problem with the hire, and we'll see how it shakes out. But the signings like Adam Eaton, a lot of Sox fans were all like, oh, like the guy's a jerk or whatever. You know what? He just won a World Series with the Nationals, and he's been through that 162-game season and a full playoffs. So there's a reason on the team that he's on the team and brought back. He gave everything he had when he was here last time, and he's off to a hot start. So then you bring in somebody like Lance Lynn. I don't think that the injury is too serious. He's going to eat up innings for you. We got some nice young arms there. And now it's a matter of just getting in the right place at the right time. You got to get into the dance at the end of the season, however that may be, grind it in. And then let's play ball and see.
Get hot when it counts. I mean, that's mostly the mark of most World Series champions is they get hot at the right time. And the 2005 White Sox are a great example of that. So I'm not counting them out by any means. And, you know, the Tony La Russa comment isn't necessarily to say he can't get the job done, but it just speaks to how they're ready to win right now. And I just wonder if the team itself is ready to win right now. And ultimately we're going to find out. And if they fall short, that doesn't mean there's I told you so's or anything. It's just going to be interesting to watch it unfold because they certainly look like they have championship pedigree as far as talent. It's just a matter of when that will come to fruition. I mean, when the Cubs won it, you knew it. I knew it. In 2015, I knew that team was going to get it done. And I'm actually shocked how much it's fallen apart, but I knew that team was going to get it done. And if you had told me what they've done over the last 5 years and I'd get my one World Series, I'd take it 10 times over and I could, you know, I would care less about the rest of the results. We needed the 108 years. Yeah. And now I'm seeing all these different fans going after, there's somebody telling me on Twitter last week that I can't still be a fan of Kyle Schwarber's. Excuse me. He was vital in this team winning their first World Series of not only my lifetime, but people that are 107 years old, their lifetimes as well. So if you think I'm not going to be a lifelong fan for every single player that was a part of that team, you're nuts. And if you can't be a fan of those players that brought you your one World Series championship home, if you're a 60-year-old and you're pissing about, you know, that they didn't end up being all Hall of Famers, hey, you got your one World Series, and I promise you were crying and screaming and cheering with your family the day it happened. So to me, it's a little disingenuous to just throw them to the curb. I'm not saying let's keep them all and let's stay in this mediocre realm that they're in, but you can certainly stay a fan of these guys. And I just think there's a little too many cynical analysts on Twitter and not enough fans. And that's okay. You do fan how you want to fan, but don't tell me to not still root for a guy like Kyle Schwarber. And I'm not advocating that they should have kept him. I'm just saying, you know, when I watch Jock Peterson strike out for a grand slam opportunity to win the game, and then I see Kyle Schwarber hit a walk-off, you know, it's just ironic. And I wanted to point out, hey, their left fielder, it hit a home run and also was very good in defense. And Jack was fumbling the ball all over the place that day and then struck out to end the day. There's a little bit of irony there. And I have no doubt when the Cubs get rid of, you know, whatever the 2 or the 3 of these guys with Javi, Rizzo, and Baez, I promise you the guys they get rid of will light it up for whatever team they go to next. You know, it's just a chemistry thing and it isn't working out anymore. And it certainly seems like they need even more of a shakeup than they've already had. But, you know, like I said, you know, I'm trying to effort Joe Killigan, who's a great guy on Cubs Twitter, and he's put out some post-game videos where he's kind of called out the cynic Cub fans. And I don't have a problem with somebody being, not, getting the pom-poms out. That's fine. But I just think they kind of, they leak into your mindset and want you to think like they do. I'm sorry. You do what you do. I'm going to be what I do.
Those type of people, you know, they're never satisfied with anything. And I promise you that they complain almost every day in their everyday life. And those people are just miserable. Like, you got to enjoy the ride when it's here. You don't know when it's going to go away. I mean, obviously, just the whole situation with how this pandemic started and how we got all the sports taken away. We got an NCAA taken away, the whole tournament last year, you know, and obviously got it back. And it was a big success, you know, this year. The whole baseball season, we got 60 games to watch on TV with no fans. So, you know what? When your team has got a chance to win it all, you be a fan. You know, and if that person gets traded away, unless he did something, you know, to the franchise that was, you know, not in good standing, then why are we going to bash him? I mean, they're not on the team anymore. So what's the purpose of doing that if you're a true fan? I don't understand.
I think it was a little, I had a guy attack me. It is what it is. But, you know, I stood up for myself a little bit in it. You know, I don't like to get down with the trolls and argue with them all day long, but had to kind of snap back a little bit because it's like, slow down, partner. Because he goes, yeah, I root for guys that never came through. Kyle Schwarber came through for this team in a big way, in the biggest way any Cub player has ever come through. That whole team did. So, yeah, I'm going to stay a fan for that. If I can stay a fan with Mitchell Trubisky as he's a backup quarterback with the Buffalo Bills and Tanner Gentry and all our guys, yeah, I'm going to root for the guys that won me a World Series championship with my Chicago Cubs. Thank you very much. So, we'll see what happens as the summer goes on. And I certainly want to catch a White Sox game with you here coming up. I like going to Comiskey. They got great food and everything else. So
the Comiskey, that's what I call it.
Yeah, it will always be Comiskey.
Yes.
I don't call it whatever. They want to keep changing the name. It will always be Comiskey.
We say
always
forever Comiskey. That's what we say.
Absolutely, 100%.
I still got some of those good Sox stories. Once the baseball season goes in, I got some good Sox stories for my family over the years. And things like that we'll save for another show, maybe as we get deeper into the baseball season.
And we got our good buddy and my former co-host, Joe Mandel of Shy Fans in the Stands. They do the South Burb Hitmen is a new White Sox show that they just started on the Barroom Network, and they're doing a great job over there. Him and Chris Gonzalez and Steve Zimmerman, and so you get your White Sox talk there, and we'll certainly bring those guys on here to do a little Cubs Sox sparring. And, you hold down the White Sox end of it. I hold down the Cubs end of it. And we hope to bring you some sights and sounds from both stadiums, talk about the food we're getting at these stadiums, the beer they're serving and everything else.
Good.
Yeah, we'll try to keep it, mix it up a little bit as the summer goes, as we pick and choose our spots when we're going to do our shows, because it's a busy time of year for Johnny B and I.
I have a feeling I'm going to be at a lot of games. I'm just going to say it.
Hey, I am too, but we're busy with our work schedules too. There's this beautiful brick and stone house we're finishing up. Ton of brick. When I mean a ton of brick, I mean a ton of brick. I said on Twitter that I built this scaffold on the backside of this house, and you can see the terrain just drops off like a ledge. And I had to build this. It was like the hardest scaffold I ever had to build. So I was damn proud of it. That's why I loaded it on the show today.
Clearance for that house, bro?
I'm telling you, man, it was tricky. I had to do a lot of digging and screw jacks and a lot of wood and a lot of block. Had to make sure it was sturdy down low because we've been getting rain. So it was some of the trickiest scaffold I've had to build. And we put a lot of brick on that house, as you can see along the side of that house and on the backside. You're looking at 10,000 bricks strong right there, and that's just two sides of the house. And it was a lot of fun. We just wrapped up the house today. For the most part, we got a little more to do on the front side where the arch is. But, yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun getting back to the brick grind. The summertime is when we're working our hardest, and certainly enjoying getting back to that. And of course, I got the big house news. I'm sitting here right now in my original house I grew up in at my mom's here in Lakes of the Four Seasons in Winfield, Indiana, the region. And we're finally moving out of my old stomping grounds on the mean streets of Kingsway. And we're getting ready to move to Cherville, Indiana. And I'm very excited about that.
Nice.
We bought a new house, and there it is. Got a nice bright yellow door. And I actually kind of like the contrast from the gray that they painted on the brick. That actually doesn't look too bad. And I am very particular because I am a bricklayer. But these people kept this house in pristine condition. And we're moving in. Closings on the 24th of May. And we're moving sometime in June. And I got a big backyard we can
screened in area on the top there.
Yeah, they built a little addition on the backside where the deck used to be. And that's like a sunroom, a prefab sunroom with all windows going all the way around. And it's gorgeous. It's right next to the kitchen. So I got a lot of plans for this backyard, and I have a lot of fun throwing bags with our fan bags here in the back.
Cornhole.
That's right. We'll get some cornhole rocking. And of course, my number one rule of whatever house I got had to have a pool, and Daddy got a pool. So we'll get ready to get some swimming in, maybe even on the 4th of July, hopefully this year. I'm excited to do it, and maybe even one day I'll build a deck around that thing, but lumber is expensive right now, so going to take it one step at a time. But we got the pool, we got the yard, we got the house, finally done with this market. All these people from Illinois moving over to Northwest. I love Illinois. I love Chicagoans, but they've been, flooding into Northwest Indiana, especially where we live in St. John, Cherville, Cedar Lake, Dyer location. And that's right where they're going to come, and they're driving the price up. These houses, it was insane. You'd have people from Illinois coming in, and it'd be like $50,000 over the asking price. I'm not even joking. It was insane. And I know you went through similar. You had to buy a house after you moved out last summer too, and maybe you got it right before.
I'm gonna be honest. I got a little bit lucky with the timing because I didn't really owe anything on my other house. I owed like a couple thousand that I was going to pay off. I was just waiting to get the tax write-off for that year. And I bought and put an offer in on our house, not contingent on anything because I didn't care because I didn't owe anything on my other house. If I had 2 houses for a while, whatever. And I got just before the craze started. So I actually put an offer in with terms and under the price that they were asking, and they actually took it. And there's no way with the price of these houses now and how they're driving up the price with offers and the price of building materials.
Insanity.
There's no chance that I would have got my house for what I got it for and with the little extras I got. So I'm pretty thankful for the timing, and I'm glad that you finally got yours, and I can't wait.
We got lucky as well because these people actually own this house since it was built in 93, and they're an older couple. I have grandkids that come by. So the house was like in pristine condition, and they actually sold it to us exclusively. They didn't even put it on the market. They just sold it to us because they wanted to give it to a good family. And we're certainly a good family. As you saw, my lovely wife and Addison at Wrigley, and Addie needs a house with a pool and a toy room and everything else. And they were nice enough to facilitate. We got it at an amazing price when you consider this market. So,
timing is everything, Greg.
Timing is everything, and patience is a virtue. And we've been patient here for the last 8 months, and my mom has been patient while she keeps us under her roof. And we've been able to save up quite a bit of money to kind of build towards this moment. And we're ready. We're excited. We got a lot of big plans, and I'm excited to move in. Closing is until the 24th, so Jenny cringes every time I talk about it because it's technically not over, but this is our house, Johnny B.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not even putting that in the answer. And as I said, I got big plans. I already put a down payment on a bad boy that looks similar to this. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this game, Johnny B, but this is called shuffleboard. Shuffle puck, which is played on the ground. Which I don't know if you remember shuffle puck, on ships, cruise ships, you'll see it on the deck, or like in grandma's basement that was built in the 50s. You'd see
good at all games.
So you're aware of shuffleboard then. And there's a guy named, his name's actually David Montgomery, ironically enough, and he's out of Illinois, DAM Shuffleboards. And this is some of the work he does. He did a Fighting Irish one. I'm having one custom made for me. And he's gonna get it to me sometime this summer. He's got a ton of different requests, and this is the kind of work he does. And you should certainly look him up if you like this game. And I'm getting mine custom made, and Brags in the Stands logo is gonna be smack dab in the middle of this bad boy when I get it delivered to my house. I might go pick it up myself, but I'm really excited to have that coming in the house. Like I said, this is the exciting time. I've been stressed out for 8 months trying to find the house. Now we found it, and now I'm checking off all the boxes of the fun stuff I want to have in the house. So when I have Johnny B and Abby over, we can have fun and party and watch sports and do our thing and swim in the pool.
Let's do it. I love summer, baby. I always say, summer.
That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm saying. We go through all our stuff, working hard, all the different, ups and downs, trying to get through life. And then, the house stuff, we've been trying to take a little break from everything to try to get our ducks in a row, so to speak, of the duck aficionado over there.
Ducks line up. Ducks line up.
Certainly getting our ducks in a row here at Brags in the Stand. So we're happy to get back and have some fun tonight. And that's exactly what we did. So, I think this is a good spot to wrap it up, and we'll be back before you know it. Maybe next week I plan on doing a show to preview the draft, maybe a reaction post-draft, and have some different guests on. I've been trying to effort different people, but it's a busy time of year for different NFL types. And, I even reached out to Rondale Moore's representation to try to get him on as the boiler guy over here, but he's getting a lot of requests. So no offense taken. Maybe the Bears will draft him and then we can get him on after that. We'll talk to Tariq Cohen to hook us up with the interview or something like that. But, certainly some NFL coverage coming up next week as we get closer to the draft. So you just never know when we're going to pop up, and I'll always promote, a show when it's coming up. So, just be on the lookout on our Twitter account or YouTube or wherever you can find us. Facebook, we have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. So, you can find us there and follow along when we'll be back. But I promise you next week, we'll have some NFL draft coverage and maybe tap into a little bit of what the Cubs have been up to, because I'll be at the game Thursday night, like I said, with Trey Tunes in the bleachers. So certainly excited about that. But I think that about wraps things up for tonight, Johnny B. It's been a lot of fun. I want to thank,
fans, baby.
Absolutely, man. And I appreciate all your hard work here on the show. And I want to thank all the viewers that tuned in, certainly everybody that's hung out this long, and thank all the new viewers that showed up certainly early on. We haven't had a spike like that since our post-game shows, for Bears games. Everybody's salivating to hear the quick, hot Bears takes when Bears games end. But we had a nice little spike to start the show, so it's always cool to bring in new viewers to see what we're all about here at Brags in the Stands, and that's about fans in the stands, and me and Johnny B embody that. So we hope you enjoy, what we're bringing to you here, and we'll try to bring you some more fun as we go along this summer, and certainly as we get closer to the football season, things will get dialed up tenfold. So having some fun, enjoying the summer, and continue to do some good shows. I also want to thank our guy Danny Parkins from 670 The Score, from the Parkins and Spiegel show. Those guys do great work Monday through Friday for 670, and he certainly brought it tonight, and got to hear a little backstory of what he's all about. A Kansas City guy, initially for 6 years, obviously born and bred in Chicago, but hopped over to Kansas City to kind of get his career going, and then back in Chicago. So a little bit of symmetry here as we got the Kansas City Chief fanatic, and then of course what we do here for our Chicago sports teams, and really appreciated all his time and effort, hanging out with us and giving us a little piece of his mind as far as the draft and baseball is concerned. So again, shout out to Danny Parkins and the guys over at 670 The Score. So, again, that wraps things up for tonight. We'll catch up with you here real soon. I'll let you give your final thoughts, Johnny B, as you always do. Normally you got some slick music to it, but Jake, our guy Jake, is 3 weeks away from his big day. He's got some big family stuff coming soon. So no music, but all vibes from our guy Johnny B.
The NFL draft is only a week away. All right, a little over a week from Thursday. Futures of all these young athletes. Get them with the right coaches. Who's your squad going to get? Is Russell Wilson going to come to the Bears? Are they going to offer that last draft pick? Or are they going to get the quarterback of the future? And I have no idea what we're going to take. But I don't even care because I got Patrick Mahomes. Until you see me next time, remember, money won is far sweeter than money earned. Bet the Vooch over 2.5. 3-pointers made, and you'll make money 3 out of 4 times. Let's go.
Let's go. Johnny B, who normally has got us Johnny B for 3, bets that he gives away here on the show. Just gave you a little teaser there with Vooch and the 3-point ball. So keep an eye on that. Money, making some money in your pocket. Johnny B not only does the cool giveaways, but helps you put some money in your wallet from your couch. So what better place to do that than there's no better place to make money than from your couch. So yes. You're a great man who helps many people, Johnny B, and we owe you a great debt. So again, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you to everybody that tuned in, and again, thank you to Danny Parkins. This is Brags in the Stands for Johnny B. I'm Gregory Braggs Jr. We'll catch up with you real soon. Take it easy, everybody.
This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot.